Hello and welcome to Health Live at Seniors Today. We are here today with the first of our Seniors Today Counselling Forums. For those of you who are regulars at our Health Live sessions, if you remember, we had Dr. Monika Dass here in a Health Live session a few months back. And in that, she suggested, and we took it up, that we have this health forum, a counseling forum rather, where she comes in every now and then, and there's an opportunity for senior citizens to speak with her. Now, I know she needs no introduction, but for those of you who weren't there last time, Dr. Das is a Chartered Psychologist and an Associate Fellow of the British Psychological Society. She has counseled over 12,500 students in a span of 20 years and has published several papers in both Indian and international newspapers, Indian and international journals. A trained pianist and a vocalist from the Trinity College of Music, London, Dr. Das has influenced many lives with the joyful learning of music. She's been involved in several popular musicals such as The Sound of Music, Joseph and His Amazing Technicolour Dreamcoat, and so on, with her expertise in developing children through drama. She firmly believes that any extracurricular activity can help tap one's potential and bring out the best in an individual. And rightly so. Welcome to Dr. Das, and thanks for coming here again for a Seniors Today Health Live session. So this is going to be different in terms of the way we are structuring it. So, the last time around, I requested you to make a presentation, but this time we'll just go, we'll deep dive into the questions that have come in.
Right. Looking forward.
Yeah. How have the last few months been with you? You are based in Aurangabad. Has activity life got back to normal, or is it still indoors?
Life is pretty much normal. People are careful, but there are many outside who move around without masks. Having said that, we're all dying to get back to proper work. I work in a school, so we're desperate to have our children back in school. And we're hoping that it will happen soon.
I can imagine, the kids want to get back to school,
Yes.
away from their parents for a bit. And here we have a host of questions that have come in since we announced that we're going to have this in the Q&A mode. Please mention your age and your gender. And in case you wish to stay anonymous, you can opt for the posting of the question anonymously, or you could mention over there and we will not state your name. Our first question is, and in the spirit of this, we will not take any names unless until somebody has said that please mention my name. So the various questions that have come by mail, I will not state the questions. So our first question is from someone who says, I'm 70 years old. My wife died of COVID. We have only one son. Our flat was gifted to my wife by her parents, and she had made my son the nominee. Right now, we have a good relationship. He's not yet married, but once he gets married and we have differences, can he throw me out of the house?
Yes and no. Your son, if he loves you and cares for you enough, would not dream of throwing you out of the house. Let's be very positive about that. So it's very important for you to maintain and have a very positive, healthy, happy relationship both with him and his future wife. In terms of the legalities, if they feel that they don't want you there, they could ask you to leave the house. But remember, as a senior citizen, you also have rights. You need to be looked after. So you could approach a good lawyer who would probably help you out in terms of trying to figure out how to, get you to be able to stay there till the end of your lifetime. So this business of just throwing people out of the house, like, the way it happens in the West, it happens a lot less in India, but I think with the way, the kind of lifestyles that we lead, there's a lot of there's an element of selfishness that is seeping through society, and we all need to be careful. So don't be insecure. That's the main thing. Build up a good relationship, but also meet a lawyer and see what the pros and cons are about this whole situation.
Right. We have a question that has come in from uh, someone who says, would you advise staying at an assisted living center for an elder with dementia or PD? What are the pros and cons according to you?
If you find a good assisted living home for your parent to stay in, and particularly when they have dementia, I would recommend it. Only for the reason that if you lead a very busy lifestyle and there's nobody at home to take care of the individual and give them food and medicines and um, the other kind of treatment that is required for them, then hopefully if you find a very good home, they would be able to take care of this. Depending on the city you're living in, if you can find a good home for them in the same city as you are, it will be easier for you to monitor and keep track, even if you visited once a week or twice a week. On the other hand, if you have a family at home who are willing to take on this responsibility and help you out with this, nothing like it. But remember, it has the cons are that, the whole family gets traumatized in the process. There's a lot of um, negativity that builds up. There's a lot of stuff that can be said by the individual concerned, which would probably be very hurtful to you. But keeping all this in mind, if you can somehow maintain a balance, get good nursing staff in, have a family member monitoring things, your elderly parent would be much happier at home than in a assisted living place.
Doctor, we have a question uh, from someone who asks, and I'm not very sure whether we can give a detailed reply to her, reply to this person.
Hmm.
How does one avoid lying down every now and then? What kind of a stimulant one can take to reduce sleep? There's no vitality. How does one increase the stamina to sit for long hours?
Um, Ma'am, sir, I think you need to get your thyroid checked out, frankly. It has a lot to do with, the imbalance of the thyroid. Point number one. The second point is none of us, if we're actually keeping healthy and leading proper lives, none of us want to go and lie down every now and then. If you look at your normal lifestyle, you'll find that you can keep going for about 4 or 5 hours, and then you feel like, relaxing maybe for 15 or 20 minutes, and then you get up and get going again. And now it also depends on the kind of food you're eating, and the amount of exercise that you're taking and your medication. So you need to get all this in sync, and you need to go to a good doctor, a GP, who will, get all your medication in sync so that you're not having to lie down every so often. There is a physical problem here, and you really need to get that sorted out, most likely related to your thyroid, uh, unless there's something much more complicated, which I'm not a medical doctor, so I wouldn't be able to go further on that.
Thank you. We have a question which has come in, uh, so this person says it's really a problem of passing time during these pandemic days. Every now and then there's bombarding on television and newspapers not to leave the home. What is to be done by sitting at home for 24 hours by the seniors? There's no limit to everything. Around about 9 months have passed, no sign of improvement in the situation. Does anybody have a solution?
The solution is up to us. Apart from the vaccine and waiting for the vaccine, your mask is also a vaccine. in many ways. And if you have good masks which you can wear, um, going out, in terms of having an evening walk or a morning walk and trying to go at times when there are not many people around, I really strongly suggest that you get out if you're mobile enough and if you're fit enough. You need to start doing normal things. I have a mother who's nearing 80. And let me tell you, she's highly spirited, is not afraid of this whole corona business and lives her life and is, touchwood, keeping good health. So, and I like that kind of spirit, and I'm recommending it to all of you. So, in terms of your normal routine, you exercise, you live your life the way you normally lead it. Don't just stay at home and be scared. The fear factor of COVID is one of the main problems here. And if we get it, we get it. We have to battle it out. The whole lot of us will have to battle it out at some point. And there's no guarantee that this vaccine is going to work on us right now. There are no guarantees. So we have to hope for the best. And in the meantime, live as normal lives as we can, all of us, including you. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. We have a question from Abhishek Bhatia. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have given the name, but he's not mentioned to stay anonymous. But so he says, I'm 62 years old and retired, and my wife will retire in the next 4 years. We are both diabetic and on medication. We are worried about our life after we become 70, 75. Can you suggest a good assisted living facility anywhere in India, preferably near Mumbai or Karnataka? We are Kannadigas hailing from Mangalore.
Apparently, there's some places near Pune, near Lonavala, as far as I've heard. I don't know how good they are, but I know of several people who have bought up places there. There is one assisted living place about 60 kilometers out of Bangalore, closer to Chikmagalur. It's a beautiful setting, but they don't have proper facilities yet. And at your age, anybody who's above 65, 70, you need to bear in mind and keep in mind that you have to be near good hospitals, near good medical facilities. So there's no point in just, you know, going to a place and living there if you don't have this proper kind of facility. There's an excellent place up north so far, and it's called Antara, which is in Dehradun. And if you're adventurous enough and spirited enough, I believe it's a beautiful property. My mother a major hand and set up over there. So you would do well at Antara. And I believe people who have gone there, the kind of feedback that I've got from many people is that they're life. There's a lot happening. But remember that medical facilities needs to be um, of primary importance for you, whichever place you're choosing. Thank you.
Right. And, you mentioned about Pune. I have seen one of these facilities which is on the outskirts of Pune.
Right.
It's very well done, and there is an ambulance which is there on call, and they have railings, and they've ensured that the elevator opens at the level of the floor, and there are large elevators which can fit in wheelchairs, etc. And I know that there is something in Bangalore, as you mentioned. Uh,
Yeah.
so, uh,
There are several, sorry to interrupt you, there are several places in Bangalore also. I forgot to mention that.
those of you who are watching right now, we are going to have uh, a special feature on the assisted homes in the February issue of Seniors Today.
Oh,
There's
excellent.
work which is going on to figure how good each of these are. So we'll be carrying them on the Feb issue. We have a question from an anonymous attendee. Uh, who says, I'm 77. I have made a will in which all my assets have been given to my wife and thereafter to my son and daughter equally. My wife is not confident in handling assets like banking and other official work. Can I train her?
Start now. So start with very simple issues in terms of if she's not used to going to the bank, take her along. Introduce her to certain people in the bank, if you know the managers and people like that, so that she becomes a little confident. The first time when you do take her along, you'll have to show her what to do. The second, and you'll have to repeat this process, obviously. So whatever steps you're taking, it has to be repeated 2 or 3 times so that she becomes confident. It's not just you showing it to her the first time and then that's it. So you then need to observe what she's doing, how she's handling it. But take baby steps, but start explaining things. So whether it's a banking, whether it's with a lawyer, whether it's with a chartered accountant, whether it's discussing things with your children, all this needs to be planned properly, synchronized properly, and she'll become much more confident in the process. And then you'll also discover whether you're able to trust a certain person or you feel uncomfortable, and then you figure out whether you need somebody else to help her out along the way. So having a good trusted confidant who can help her out apart from your children is a very important aspect for your wife in terms of what once you pass on. And I'm glad you're thinking about it. And women these days need to be very well informed, because a lot of you hear of a lot of stories where men have suddenly passed on, and then husbands have suddenly passed on, and the wives have absolutely no clue what's going on, in terms of their work or banking or anything. So I'm glad you're thinking about it. Thank you.
Uh, Thanks, Dr. Das. We have a question from uh, someone who has responded to your response on assisted living, uh, and this person says the challenge is to find a good place, isn't it? Uh, this is with reference to the cons you mentioned for an assisted living place. Would it be advisable to start preparing for the golden years in an assisted living place when you are aware of dementia setting in in your life? I may not remember my family members anyway.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Yes, start preparing. I would prepare also. But I would also hope that there would be a family member who would want to look after me. So there's a lot of it's a catch-22, frankly. If you feel you're going to be comfortable away from the family, and it's of utmost importance for their sanity and yours for you to be away, then start searching. While you have your wits about you. The main thing with dementia is it can hit anybody anytime. That it's not a question of age. It can hit me. It can hit any of us. So you have to figure out. You can't figure out everything all the time. You have to let your family also do things for you. But if you want to be independent, then start looking for a good place. And when I say a good place, I mean somewhere where people care for humanity. It's not just about the money, it's not just about the cost, it's about how you are being dealt with as a person. That's important.
Right. Thank you. We have quite a few questions coming in now. This is again from an uh, anonymous attendee. I'm not very sure whether he had written to us earlier or was there in our last session, but it's a similar kind of a question. He's a 60-year-old diabetic having cardiac issues, osteoarthritis, knee problems, etc., having a schizophrenic only child uh, who is creating a lot of problems with the residents of the society. swearing, shouting, yelling, and has hit him several times, including injured his cataract operated eye, and has required a reoperation and got physically hit several times. Please suggest an affordable rehab center in Mumbai.
Um, I don't know who I'm speaking to, but I need to come back on this because I really need to do some research on this. I have absolutely no idea, about a proper place in Mumbai. I do know one thing, and that is that you shouldn't be living with your schizophrenic son because you are also not able to look after yourself, leave alone this young man. And the other thing is, if he's getting violent, it obviously means that his medication is not, it's not been synchronized properly. So that's something you need to take care of. And you need to do regular visits to a good doctor, maybe a clinical psychologist or a psychiatrist who can help you out with this. But schizophrenia can be controlled and you can live with the person up to a point. When there's violence and when there's all this sort of unhappiness going on, um, it's very important for you to maintain your sanity. Very, very important. So you really need to figure this one out. It's a tough decision. It's not going to be easy because you see a youngster having to, you need to part company, but that person also needs help and you need your sanity also. Thank you.
In fact, he has added, he says, further, the son doesn't take any medication and goes to the doctor saying that he is fine and that we people require medicines.
Mm. That's the problem with most schizophrenics.
Uh, so, sir, I think we have your email address. You had written in the last time. We will come back to you with,
Definitely.
with some suggestions,
Yeah.
and we'll mail you very soon. We have another uh, question, which is if a senior citizen is a single person, how is he or she to deal with the possibility of getting an illness like dementia or Alzheimer's? Are there any places which can be trusted to look after such a person?
It's similar to some of the other questions that we've had before in terms of, finding a proper place. The main thing is, most single people have this worry about being alone. And I really wish there were proper places in India, or I wish the government had thought of this sort of thing, where single people could find a place for themselves. Um, the main thing is if you don't have any family member, there's nobody to look after you. You have to find a place and hope for the best. I mean, that's the only thing I can say. Now, I know of a place in Bangalore. I don't know the name. I can definitely find out for you and let you know. But I know that a friend of mine has actually admitted her mother there for reasons best known to her. But I've gathered that she just couldn't handle the inconsistencies that were occurring every day. And it's also related to dementia. And her mother is much more comfortable. So it is a good idea to find a place well in advance and maybe put some money by for that kind of setup. But if you need a more Nimans Bangalore, I can see somebody saying that Nimans is a hospital.
Right.
Where do you go and you can't live there forever. You can go there for help. But finally, at the end of the day, you need to find a setup where you can live. And as I mentioned earlier, you need good medical facilities near you.
Yeah. So I will, we'll make a note of this, and
Please.
when we do have our special story in the February issue, we will ensure that we factor in these bits also in terms of medical care, etc. Uh, so there's a question which has come in. What is dementia? Is it forgetting names, vocabulary? etc.? Is it associated with some physical disabilities? Uh, well, not exactly the right question for you, but what you could talk about what happens in dementia in terms of state of being.
I think the main problem with dementia is that you forget. You're unable to remember people's names. You are unable to remember maybe your surroundings. You could go out and not remember how to get back home. Um, and in the long run, there's a lot of wear and tear in the brain, a lot of cells misfiring. But the main thing with dementia is that you cannot be left on your own. You need somebody with you in case something untoward happens. So people who are entering that phase, you're still able to manage your lives. But if you're already into it, and I mean, none of you, for example, all of you who are on, in this session, obviously don't have dementia. Otherwise, you wouldn't be attending this session. Let's be very frank about it. So it's all a question of how much you can manage. Your brain needs to be exercised regularly, and I find a lot of elderly people stop using their gray cells because they think they're old. You're not old. You're not old till something happens to you. Okay, so you need to keep your gray cells ticking away. You have to be doing things in order for this you need to exercise your brain just as you're exercising your body. So don't just lie down and give up on life. You have to figure out a way to do things which keeps your brain ticking away. It's very important.
Thank you. We have a question from a 72-year-old who says, I'm 72 and my wife is 70. So in the last 20 years, we've been taking care of our 38-year-old, never married son who has schizophrenia. He's stable with basic maintenance dose. Now we are working on his nurturing. So far, we have managed his recovery, putting his life more than ours. Our concern is what after us.
Mm. I mean, there are many cases like this. Um, I think at the end of the day, you have to find assisted living for him, a place, hopefully where they will look after him. Family members is not a good idea because at the end of the day, if he's not your own child, I'm just giving you an example. Um, it becomes very difficult for other family members to take on the responsibility of somebody else's child. Whereas you will be willing to do everything and go all out for your son, it's not going to be the case with others. But you will need help, and you need to start actually trying to figure a way where he will start. Um, you put him into a home and you meet him regularly, you visit him regularly, so that it's like weaning a child. You'll have to wean him into this whole process so that he can start living and building a life for himself somewhere.
Right. So there's a question which has come in. What brain exercises are you referring to for dementia?
I'm not referring to anything in particular. I'm talking about handling your own bank accounts. I'm talking about going shopping and living your daily life. I'm talking about reading the papers. I'm talking about having discussions, heated discussions with your friends without it becoming too heated up. I'm talking about basically exercising your brain all the time. Very important. It's not just about sitting in front of the television and just taking in whatever is being shown to you. You have to have discussions without getting into an argument. You have to be able to do that. And many elderly people get very crotchety and things like that, so be careful when you get into that kind of thing. but this is what exercising the brain is about. And I encourage all elderly people to live their life. Don't just give it over to your children and say, you do it, you look after me, you manage my accounts. You do it, the individual. You handle everything, you make your own decisions. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one question which is a rather long one, because uh, I have retired this year in June 2020, and now I feel that passing the whole day free is a big challenge for me. In the early morning, I go for my morning walk and do some exercise, then read the newspaper with morning tea. After finishing the usual work, big challenge for time pass. I try to read the Ramayana and morning prayer, but after 20 days again, feel, feeling free with no work. Currently, I've shifted to my hometown, Haridwar, and enjoying my 42 years of service with various companies, last with a leading industrial group. I'm taking regular medicines uh, in the last 6 years for blood clotting observed in my left side, backside head. Kindly advise how should I utilize my whole day hours. Even I'm taking care of shopping for my family for daily needs like vegetable, fruits, grocery. At my home, I'm living with my son and daughter-in-law. The rest is fine. So, what is your advice? How?
Um, I would advise you, with all the 42 years of experience that you have, think about setting up a small consultancy. You can, I mean, look at the vast amount of experience you have. You're rich with that. You have the ability to be able to teach others, to give advice. So you can always think about setting up a consultancy to start with. The second thing is, you could actually sit down, work out a kind of a program, say 10-day kind of thing, where you're teaching youngsters how to manage their existence within an organization, say the first 10 years of their life, or midlife, or a little later. Because remember, you have gone through it all. People like y'all have got so much to give to all of us. And people need that. They need this kind of experience, in order to be able to function. Now, many youngsters may not listen, but somewhere along the line, they will absorb, they will remember, and they will implement. So there are two things you can do: set up your own consultancy, or figure out whether you want to do a kind of a 2 or 3 hour stint every day, uh, where you're teaching. You set up a program, you know, a 10-day or a 2-week kind of thing. I mean, there are loads of people doing online sessions, and if you're tech savvy, you can get onto it. Now, the third thing you can get involved with is an NGO. So if you're interested in doing social work, and I'm sure Haridwar has a lot of that available, you can think of, joining somebody, or maybe setting up something very small of your own. There's so much going on in this. I mean, we're talking about people who don't have homes, for example. We don't know where to send them. There are not enough, you know, uh, places for youngsters to go if their parents are not going to be there. There's so many opportunities available. Think about it, sir. You can get involved.
Thank you. So we have few questions around assisted living again. There's a question which is from somebody who's named with a device name. It says, "God bless. As of now, my mind, brain, and memory are very good. Have other age-related problems which I'm dealing with medically. I would not be unhappy to go in for a senior citizen home for company and maybe
Yeah,
help others in the senior citizen home. I wish to keep my leadership initiative. God continue to help me with humility and gratitude." He's
lovely,
one of our regular.
lovely, lovely.
What I just read. Uh, so there are a few questions which have come in from somebody who's asked, is there any such assisted living place in New Delhi or NCR? Is it possible to bring out a directory of places in various towns and cities? So, as I mentioned, we will have something in February. I must confess, we did not think of a very detailed and a directory kind of thing. But now that we see that there's a fair amount of interest, we should perhaps think of doing. Uh, so we have a question from an uh, anonymous attendee who says, "I am 67, spiritual, have lost the urge for sex. My wife, 64, is still interested in sex and feels that I don't love her anymore. I feel very small. Uh, can you suggest some medicine for me? By the way, till what age can older people still go on having sex?"
Well, Charlie Chaplin had a child when he was, I think, 80 something, as far as I remember. Una Chaplin. So men have this ability to have children way beyond one's imagination. In terms of your sex drive, that nobody has any control over that, and that's something you would have to figure out with an expert. Um, if your wife's needs are not being satisfied, again, you need to both of you need to meet an expert to figure out what needs to be done. Remember that if you're on the spiritual path, a lot of the time the urge does go away, very frankly. So you need to sit down and have a discussion, a very frank discussion with her, and then figure out ways and means where both of you can continue to live compatibly, happily, and satisfactorily, in the sense that both of you are happy being together. So I would start with an expert. I would start with a conversation, with a frank conversation between the two of you, and then see where it leads. Because you have your needs and she has her needs. So you both need to figure this out and come to a kind of happy medium.
We have the last question for today, which is uh, uh, from a 75-year-old pensioner who says the signs of dementia have started appearing. Otherwise, he's physically fit. Son in frequently transferable job, daughter is married, wife has passed away. I'm living alone. Get tense or agitated too often. Uh, I'm looking for an old age home in Pune. Finance is not an issue. So before you answer the question, as I said, we will have a detailed uh, old age issue special in Seniors Today, and for somebody else who mentioned, yes, Seniors Today is a monthly e-magazine which started in July 2019. So we've been here for a year and a half, and you can refer to our back issues when you visit Seniors Today. And it's a fairly popular magazine. We've got over 125,000 subscribers now, so it is exceedingly popular. And I must also tell you, Dr. Das, that since last week we are now also in Hindi. So our website is also in Hindi, so which is
Fantastic.
at, Hindi at seniorstoday.in. So we realized that there is a need, and there were some people who are also asking us to conduct this health live session in Hindi. So we've gone for the website in Hindi. I'm sure we'll get to these sessions also in Hindi. So yeah, so Dr. Das, the question is that he is a 75-year-old pensioner. He's early signs of dementia. Son in a transferable job, daughter is married, wife has passed away. Gets tense or agitated too often. So before he finds himself an old age home, is there something that you would suggest to him?
Yeah, a couple of things. One is, remember that as you enter this period of dementia, uh, it's a whole new ball game for you, and it's very natural for you to be getting tense and upset and irritated. Very natural process, and it's got a lot to do with the fact that you are unable to handle some of the challenges, or maybe you perceive it as a failure. It's not a failure. is just something that is beyond your control, and you need to remember this and handle it properly. So getting agitated is a natural process. Trying to decrease the agitation is what you need to work on. So there are a couple of things which I haven't mentioned till now. One is, you really need, if you're fit and healthy, you really need to start doing yoga. Simple yoga for the elderly. I cannot tell you how beneficial it will be in terms of just calming your body down. You obviously, as I've mentioned many times before, you need to lead a very strict, healthy lifestyle in terms of exercising, eating properly, medication, etc. Um, if you're not comfortable living with your son and your daughter, and I seem to gather from the way you've made your statement, that you would prefer to be on your own, again, you need to look for a place where they look after people like you. And I've mentioned this place in Bangalore, and I'm going to come back to you all with this name, where I know that they're looking after people who have dementia, etc. I don't know how good they are, but I've heard that people who have put their parents in are happy with the setup. So you really need to start working on this. Uh, there's nothing like being with a family member. I keep saying this and I come back to it. So if you are able to stay with your daughter or your son, not necessarily in the same home. In England, for example, they have something called a granny flat. So you've got the main house where your son or your daughter are living, and they build a separate kind of attachment with a kitchen, a living room, bedroom, etc. for you. So you're bang next door to them. If you need them, they're independent, you are independent. And I think if you're able to find something like that with either of your children, you may find it more beneficial, and then you can call in proper nursing staff and things like that, because money is not an issue. So your children will supervise this whole thing, but you're near them, you've got family there, and yet you're independent, you can live your life. So think about these possibilities if you can, instead of just landing up in a home all on your own. You're lucky you have your son and daughter. Very lucky.
Thank you very much,
My pleasure.
us for
Thank
taking
you.
the time. I know you're busy with a family function, etc. But it was great that you could spend some time, uh, painstakingly answered every question, like any.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.